Shohei Ohtani pitched. Shohei Ohtani hit. Don't worry about the results.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Dodger fans, welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is here for you, and we are talking about the World Series champion, reigning World Series champion, Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasting on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day, which can be made easier by subscribing and getting notified when episodes are ready or when we're going live on YouTube. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. I'm Vince Samperio. That's Jeff Snider. And we have been doing Locked On Dodgers since 2019. We've covered the team in our own way for over a decade, and we've been watching the Dodgers since we can remember. So we are here, and Jeff, we mentioned that, or I just mentioned that we've been watching the Dodgers for as long as we can remember. I don't know where this ranks on the most exciting time or exciting game looking forward to as being a Dodger. Obviously, there are some other ones out there. But Shohei Ohtani pitched. Shohei Ohtani also hit. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the offense as a whole, getting to Dylan Cease after it looked like they were going to get shut down again, and how the bullpen is now looking like a bit of a strength. But we start with Shohei Ohtani because we got to see what we've been wanting to see ever since the Dodgers signed him, which is him doing both in one game. And while it didn't end in 3 straight strikeouts like the ideal world would have been, it was still pretty good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch. You mentioned the anticipation of this, and I think it's different than a lot of, you look forward to a World Series game. You look forward to those things. This one, it's more, you're excited about it because of what it might mean in the future. The big picture, the year 2 of a 10-year contract, and finally getting to do the other half of the thing that he does. Just so exciting. And ultimately, he could have gotten shelled, and it wouldn't have changed my feelings about it very much because, like you said, this wasn't about the results necessarily. This was about the big picture. And so the fact that he did get through an inning, only allowed 1 run, and realistically, there were a couple ways that run could have, been kept off the board too. It's not like he got rocked. And so all in all, for the first time pitching, and I think I read 633 days, something like that, it's hard to be much happier than, with a performance than what we got from Shohei tonight.
Yeah, I mentioned last night that, the first pitch was probably going to be 98, and it was 98, but I even lowballed what Ohtani was going to throw the rest of that inning. He ended up touching 100 miles an hour. That pitch wasn't a strike, but he was up there with velocity. He was up there with the movement. He got 2 strikes on every hitter, if not every hitter, close to every hitter that he faced. And yeah, there was a couple bloop singles. There was a little sac fly after a controversial no call on a swing from Manny Machado. But all in all, as long as Ohtani's shoulders, as long as his elbow's intact, as long as his arm's still hanging on tomorrow, that'll be the bigger test of how he feels. But I think, obviously there's a lot of different ways they could have approached this, and not to say that this is the best approach just because it was fun and in the moment and it ended up working out. But the simulated games, he was doing very well, but that's a simulated game. There's nothing like the real thing when you have the adrenaline, when you have everything else, especially this one a little bit heightened, facing the Padres, packed house, Dodger Stadium. And yeah, that's probably the rust and the overexcitement probably parlayed a little bit into the fact of what went on with him. But ultimately, it looked really good, other than just not getting the couple strikeouts.
Yeah, absolutely. He got, 2 strike counts, full counts were kind of a theme for the Dodgers tonight. And like you said, he got jobbed a little bit by the umpire. Chances are that run probably scores anyway, because Tatis probably would have scored on Sheets' ground out after Machado's sac fly. Andy Pages almost threw Tatis out at home. That was a great throw, and only a great slide by Tatis got him in. So there's a couple alternate universes where it was a scoreless inning for Ohtani, but either way, ultimately 1 run, especially since the Dodgers did come back and win. Shohei Ohtani, the hitter, got Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher, off the hook, which we'll talk more about in a few minutes. But the excitement of, like, we've all seen him pitch before, but not in our uniform. Not in a game that we cared about. I used to watch a lot of Ohtani, as I mentioned before, because I really like watching him play. I like watching him pitch. I like watching him hit. So I've seen him pitch plenty of times, but it hits different when he's in the best uniform in baseball, in that, crisp Dodger white and Dodger blue, and doing it felt surreal to see him go out there and pitch and then come up and lead off. And yeah, he struck out that time up. None of it was storybook, which is fine. We don't need a storybook. We can save that for October. For today, it was just the fact that he's doing it is all that we needed as fans, I think.
Yeah, and it was, kind of looking forward to what it could be when Shohei Ohtani throws 6 innings and then drives in 2 runs, the different things of looking forward to. And we'll kind of switch over to that now with, moving forward, what is the plan? And Ohtani said after the game, the plan's about to pitch about once a week, adding innings every time he goes. You'd imagine innings, pitch count, whatever it is, he'll go up to probably 2 innings, and then, 3 innings, 4 innings, 5 innings, up until he's built up. And then all the other questions will come, like, okay, is he going to get any days off? Is he going to move in the lineup, which they did talk about? Dave Roberts mentioned that they thought about it. Ohtani told him, don't worry about it. But, could be a little different when you're throwing 1 inning than when you're throwing 5, 6 innings, and Ohtani leading off or for home games is where it really affects it, because he can bat, even have a couple batters off, then go pitch, that's still a possibility. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, there's just a lot more to look forward to. And that's the best part about this is, okay, first step over, results weren't there, but the impression was there.
And the stuff was really good. Maybe we're underselling this a little bit. I mean, he hit 100 miles an hour. The movement, the sinker looked outstanding. The command wasn't quite there, but the movement was there. All of his pitches looked good other than command. And like, you have to remind yourself, oh yeah, this guy before he got hurt wasn't just, I've made the comparison before. This isn't Michael Lorenzen we're talking about, who is a decent pitcher and has a lot of power for a pitcher. This is one of the best hitters in baseball and one of the best pitchers in baseball, all in one body. And it's ridiculous. And we definitely saw that stuff. This performance wasn't a Cy Young performance, but the stuff, you can absolutely see why he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball when he's been healthy.
And the pitch mix, I mean, we saw pretty even distribution between sweeper, fastball, sinker, 10 sweepers, 9 fastballs, 8 sinkers. Did only throw 1 splitter. That was interesting. I don't know if that was by design. I don't know if that was him not feeling it in the bullpen, whatever it was. Because with all these 2 strikes, yeah, Ohtani's, fastball is good. Ohtani's sweeper is good. Ohtani's, sinker can move. But the splitter is the pitch. And that's the out pitch, for a lot of guys that come from Japan. And, Yamamoto is one of those guys that has a nasty splitter. Kodai Senga has the ghost forkball, whatever they call it. That is his pitch. And if, for whatever reason he wasn't throwing it, but then we get to add that to the mix, like I said, there's just so much to really think about and get excited for when you think about what this means moving forward.
Yep. And we get to do it again next week and the week after that. And hopefully he stays healthy and we get to do it all through October and see some really fun games that really matter when he's fully built up and really pitching like the AC is.
Yeah. And, Shohei Ohtani is known for doing unprecedented things. And he's doing something unprecedented on Locked On Dodgers, because we got to talk about Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher, in a segment in a game that he pitched. And now we get to talk about Shohei Ohtani, the hitter, in a segment, because he also drove in more runs than he allowed. Today's episode is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. They got an easy-to-use website that's packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. And they've also got a complete inventory of, get this, over 200,000 parts from over 400 plus top brands. Any part you can need from any brand you can need, you'll find exactly what you need right there, delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service. So you always talk to a real person, especially in today's day and age. You always want to talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Where else are you going to get a program like that for free? At Supply House? That's the place. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen today, probably your last listen today here on Monday for listening live. Whatever listen today, we appreciate you. Make sure to check us out wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe so you get notified when episodes are ready or when we're going live. And remember, you can check out Locked On MLB Game Night, where you can probably see us sometimes talking Dodgers specifically. You get local analysis on a national scale. So check that out on Locked On MLB or wherever you get podcasts. And now we move to the offensive side of the ball, where Shohei Ohtani drove in 2 runs and ultimately outplayed himself on the mound. But it was one of those games that started off like, exactly what happened last week against Dylan Cease. Looks like it's going to happen again. He struck out the first 5 hitters. He looked really dominant. He was, pumping. He had some adrenaline going from the packed house at Dodger Stadium as well, pumping 100 in his inning. But then the Dodgers got to him, and they didn't get to him in the way that we're maybe sometimes used to getting to guys with a bunch of power and walks. They got it with base hits and singles and doubles and, dropping balls in front of outfielders and things like that. So it was one of those ways where, you realize, this Dodger offense is good. Sometimes they can get shut down like they did last week against Dylan Cease, and then sometimes they can do what they did today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was kind of interesting during the game. Joe Davis and Eric Karros had a conversation about batting average and getting hits and the importance of putting the ball in play. And, kind of as usual in conversations like that, I feel like maybe they took it a little bit farther than I would personally. But yeah, I mean, the fact that the Dodgers had a 5-run inning with just 1 extra base hit, and that was a bloop double by Will Smith. Like, they didn't hit the ball extremely hard that inning. It was an infield single, a couple bloop singles, a bloop double, but they put the bat on the ball. They found holes. And, Willie Keeler, famous Dodger, said, hit it where they ain't. And that's what the Dodgers did in that inning. And there's absolutely a ton of value in that. Where I maybe differ from them is, yes, getting a hit is better than getting out. But there's also a lot of things in between there. And, you got to take some walks once in a while if you really want to be truly valuable. So, there's a balance to be found there. And, they were talking about how players do what gets rewarded. And there's a reason that the power gets rewarded, because it's the thing that helps teams win the most. That's what teams reward, is what helps them win. And, there's a reason that Luis Ariz has been traded a bunch of times despite leading the league in batting average, because for all of his high batting average and hitting the ball well, he doesn't bring much value otherwise. But what we saw in that inning was very much a Luis Ariz kind of inning. And you got to have those once in a while at least. And Cease wasn't, I feel like he ran out of gas. Maybe he not like he was throwing any less hard necessarily in that 4th inning, but I felt like he came in overly hyped and maybe lost his command or whatever. And the Dodgers got to him. It was fun to see. I like home runs a lot, but it's fun to see a 5-hit, 5-run rally.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, with Cease, like I said, they just faced him last week. You shut him down. It could have been a little bit of product. Once the Dodgers were down a little bit big, Cease was able to cruise a little bit more. You didn't have that luxury here. But for the Dodgers, if I were to tell you, hey, Dylan Cease struck out the first 5 hitters of the game, the Dodgers struck out 12 times overall. They only had 2 walks. You probably would think they didn't have a great offensive game.
And they hit no home runs.
Yeah, and no home runs. And you think, hey, not a great offensive game. But every starter other than Michael Conforto had a hit. They were able to have that big inning, and they didn't do much else outside that one inning, just the one other RBI double by Ohtani the inning before. But as we talked about, one big inning isn't a bad thing. If you put up 5 runs in an inning, the Dodgers average 5 runs a game. So like that's putting you where you're at. And not that I don't think I really saw anything about the Dodgers not scoring the other innings, but I know we've talked about that in the past. But you put up a crooked number, you get the starter out early, especially in game 1 of a 4-game series, especially when the rest of your pitching the rest of the week is a little, or at least the next 2 days is a little bit unknown. And the fact that we've been saying that the Dodgers have had to rely on their offense in order to get a lot of these wins, it all kind of added up, and it looked really good.
Yeah, I saw a stat the other day that I don't remember, so I shouldn't have even started this sentence, but I've already started it, so I'm going to finish it. So I don't have any specifics, except it was the Cubs, in some percentage of their wins this year, have scored more runs in one inning than their opponents scored in the whole game. And it was some high percentage. And the Cubs, that's why the Cubs are successful this year, because that big inning will do it for you. If you can get a big inning, you're going to be, most of the time, I would guess teams that score 5 runs an inning are probably winning like 90% of those games throughout the history of baseball. 5 runs an inning is always a good thing. It worked out for the Dodgers in Game 5 of the World Series last year, and I will take a 5-run inning every game and feel pretty good about my chances to enjoy watching my team play that year. And I hope they start hitting more homes. Dodgers haven't hit many home runs lately. I'd like them to turn that around, but they are leading the league in batting average too this year, and there's a lot of value in that. The fact that the Dodgers are in first place, one of the best teams in baseball, despite all the pitching challenges they've had this year, this offense has really, really stepped up.
Yeah. Moving away from offense specifically to when the Dodgers were on the offensive side, Andy Pages hit by a pitch. Took a little exception to it. Dylan Cease didn't know why. Nobody, benches didn't clear anything like that, but there was, guys were standing up, bullpens were looking out, probably had the door ready to open. It looks like right now after the game, Pages said he did think that Cease threw him out intentionally. I'm not going to directly go against a Dodger player, but yeah, it just didn't seem like there was a reason for him to do that.
Yeah, it's hard to picture why Cease would have been throwing at him there. Mad about his double the previous time up, base open. I think it was runner on second, right? So maybe, I want to intentionally walk him anyway to get to Michael Conforto or whatever.
Here it is. It says that they thought he was relaying signs from second.
Earlier. Oh, okay. Oh, so that that would be a legitimate reason to get drilled, and again, that's not illegal. Relaying signs from second base is absolutely legal. And, but we've talked about how when teams intentionally walk Shohei Ohtani, it always backfires for him. If they were throwing at Pages, the Dodgers scored I think all 5 runs after Pages got hit by that pitch, at least 4 runs. I don't remember where they were in the inning, but Teo started
all of them after that.
Yeah. And so, you know what? Yeah. Give me a free base runner anytime. And that's the thing. Like whenever people like, oh, you got to protect your players, you got to throw at them. Like, no, don't give them base runners, strike him out. That's how you protect your players. Make them look like an idiot, so yeah, I still doubt that Cease was throwing at him. If he was, I mean, that's a good way to do it. You threw it 98, you drilled him, it got his elbow guard, luckily, but he aimed at the ribs. That's how you throw at somebody. If you're throwing at somebody, I have no gripe with that. And, I felt like it got in Cease's head a little bit. I don't know if I would have given Pages credit for it. That's why he did it, to get in Cease's head, but Cease struggled after that inning. And, a little bit of drama there on the field, maybe even if it just gets Cease more amped up. We saw with Ohtani, some of the reason I think he couldn't hit his spots was because of how amped up he was, and so if Cease gets a little bit more fired up and a little bit less commandy, that's not a bad thing. And, the results speak for themselves. Andy Pages won this game for the Dodgers by glaring at Dylan Cease.
Yeah. We've talked about the offense and how they kind of needed to carry the team in this time of pitching uncertainty. Starting pitching is still in flux a little bit, but the bullpen is starting to round out, and the bullpen is starting to become a strength. Today's episode is brought to you by Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Never leave money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? Probably didn't wait. You probably called the next guy. And that's why having a reliable business line is so important. And that's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. And it's great if you have multiple employees because your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more who's handling this. So imagine Jeff and I were running a business together. We'd have one app and, we talk to you kind of like we do sometimes. So there's no reason to juggle two phones to keep your business and personal calls separate. Open Phone solves that instantly. Open Phone is offering Locked On Dodgers listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonmlb. That's openphone.com/lockedonmlb. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. We appreciate those of you that are everydayers, and everydayers just someone that listens or watches every day. We know there are a lot of you live with us here right now. We know there are a lot of you that are listening to this on your way to work in the morning or at the gym in the morning or whatever you're doing when you're listening to this. We appreciate you. If this is your first time listening or watching, we got 3 more games against the Padres to talk about, and why not return and join us for the rest of the week. And remember, if you want to go beyond the podcast, you can go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Get text directly from us, keeping you up to date with the Dodgers, and join our Discord server where the games. It's getting a lot more chatty now the last couple weeks. Obviously, playing the Padres and Giants will probably do that to you. But go joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. And now we talk about the bullpen because we talked about the starting pitcher who was Shohei Ohtani, but he only went 1 inning, and there was 8 other innings to cover. We knew Ben Casparis was going to get bulk innings in this game, and he did well as he continues to do and has done. This is not the segment, but if you're going to stretch him out to be a starter, let him be a starter. But hey, this is the way they decided to go with it. But yeah, Jeff, I mean, now the Dodgers got Michael Kopech back. They got Kirby Yates back. They got Anthony Banda and Alex Vesia performing better back. And now they're starting to look like, hey, this isn't a pitching staff in flux. It's just the rotation in flux and a strong bullpen.
Yeah, and don't forget the other lefty, Tanner Scott, who has also figured things out too. You've got 3 lefty relievers who have all figured it out over the last couple of weeks. Scott is back to being, one of the best relief pitchers in baseball. That stuff is just ridiculous. You and I have talked.
Hiding the ball would be good.
Yeah, who knew? You and I have talked in regards to a lot of players over the years about how when somebody identifies an issue, makes a change, and the results follow, it's really easy to buy into that. That's the case with Tanner Scott. I haven't heard anything like that with Banda and Vesia necessarily about them identifying some reason why they were both giving up, way too many home runs. That's been the big issue with both of them this year, and they both have totally turned that around over the last few weeks. And I don't know if it's just getting back to what they were doing or whatever. With Tanner Scott, it was very clearly, and maybe we needed that from Tanner Scott because his, between the high profile, the big contract, and the high profile blown saves, we kind of needed to hear that from him. And whereas Banda and Vesia have been able to fly a little bit more under the radar, but seeing those 3 lefties all turn it around has totally changed the way I feel when it's time to go to the bullpen.
Yeah, it's definitely different. A couple weeks ago, we were talking about it's a coin flip when you go to the bullpen right now, and it doesn't feel that way anymore. It feels like a coin flip with or a 2-headed coin that no matter what you throw, you're going to land on what you know. And that's where it's at right now. They have multiple guys that are legitimate in the back end of the bullpen. Michael Kopech still kind of figuring things out, but has been more better than not in his time in the majors. Just the one time he was bad, he was really bad. But Tanner Scott's figured it out. Kirby Yates has continued to do what he's doing. He just, missed a little time with an injury. Banda and Vesia are doing well. And then you have Kasperius, who's, still filling in as a jack of all trades type of guy. And it's still more to come. Like Blake Trinan at some point will return. Edgardo Henriquez is down in the minors. He probably won't return as soon as he's ready to go, but there's still, a guy that pumps 100 is not a bad thing to have waiting down in the minors. At some point this year, Brusdar Graterol will come back. Emmett Sheehan's coming back on the starter side. So, every time you add an extra starter, that's somebody else that could potentially be a bullpen piece moving forward once they kind of fill the rotation out. So there's a lot of things right now to like about this bullpen. And yeah, the Dodgers are able to score runs. Check, the starting pitchers, it hasn't been terrible. It's just you don't know. But now with the bullpen, you do know. There's another known quality in this Dodger team, and hasn't led to, direct success in the sense of, they're playing over their heads right now. But the fact that this team is a couple games over 500 in the stretch where they were facing all teams that were playoff contenders, that's a feat in itself.
Absolutely. And being in a situation where we as fans and Dave Roberts as a manager can feel comfortable going into the late innings with the lead. It's not Steven Nelson, I was talking to him a few weeks ago, and he joked that he probably says the phrase "hold on to your butts" more often than he should while sitting in Vin Scully's press box. It should be a more dignified place than that. But for a lot of this season, it's been very much a hold on to your butts kind of season when the bullpen came in. And there's been very little butt holding lately. And put that on a t-shirt. The Dodgers bullpen is a non-butt holding bullpen right now. You just expect them to come in. Doesn't mean that they're going to get it done every time. Individuals will have bad games at times, but what you expect now is for these guys to come in and do their job. And when they don't, it will be an exception. And that's a feeling I wasn't confident we'd get back to that this year because, it was one thing when there were injuries. We knew that we were missing Michael Kopech and Blake Trinan and Kirby Yates. We're still missing Trinan. But the fact that Tanner Scott and Alex Vesia and Anthony Bonda were bad, it's like, okay, getting guys back isn't going to fix that. Other than, what we did talk about a few times, which is that Tanner Scott, they had to keep throwing him into the fire because they didn't have other options. And just getting guys back to give more options. Luckily, Tanner Scott figured it out without that. But, it was hard to picture this bullpen becoming a strength again. And turns out the key was guys who are pitching poorly, stop pitching poorly. Who knew?
Yeah. And we've gone about 7 minutes now and haven't even mentioned Jack Dreyer, who's continued to be, very good for the Dodgers in the bullpen. And with Dreyer, it's one of those things where if you don't hear your name, or if we're not talking about you on the podcast for a while, it probably because you're fine. We're going to talk about the guys that are struggling, the guys that are doing well. We get to give them their flowers every so often. And that's where we're at for the Dodgers. Speaking of bullpen, the Dodgers will be having a bullpen game on Tuesday. I don't know if Matt Sauer's ready to top the 111 pitches he threw last week, but it's possible. And then Emmett Sheehan starts on Wednesday. So again, kind of like any series, winning that first game of the series, especially with uncertainty coming in the next couple of days, the Dodgers, they're not going into tomorrow planning to punt a game or anything like that. But again, it'll probably be a similar playbook to last week where if at some point it gets out of hand, the Dodgers may turn a different way.
Yeah. We saw a report that Bobby Miller had been scratched from his schedule start in Oklahoma City on Sunday, presumably just in case they needed him. I think that was Jeff Spiegel who talked to OKC broadcaster Alex Friedman about that. Seems like they're not going to need him. Maybe that was just in case today's game went really poorly and they had to use a bunch of guys for a lot of innings. But the fact is you got Sauer, you got Wroblewski, you've got Dreyer. I mean, those three guys could probably take that a bullpen game, just the three of them. And maybe that will be the plan, that just go with those three guys. And then it's probably Sauer getting optioned after the game to make room for Emmett Sheehan on the roster. But it's much better going into a bullpen game after winning the first game of the series and knowing if the Dodgers can win one of the next three, that's a series split, and they leave the series still 3 games up on the Padres in the division, obviously hoping they can win 2 or 3 of the next 3 and just really beat them down. But winning the first game of series is always a very much more comfortable feeling.
Yeah, and if you're wondering about bullpen usage, Alex Vesia threw 8 pitches, Michael Kopech threw 11 pitches, Tanner Scott threw 7 pitches, and Kirby Yates threw 10 pitches. So all those guys would presumably be available, assuming none of them were on a back-to-back in this.
Yates and Scott were both on back-to-back, so they might get the day off no matter what happens. But yeah.
But again, the offense can make that a moot point and just score 10 runs and not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get to see Kike again on the mound, even though maybe that's not what everyone wants to see. But
yeah.
Jeff, is there anything else you got for us?
I just need to address a bunch of the comments. I knew that Shohei would be the big news. Didn't realize me doing a live podcast without a hat on would be such big news. But I am traveling. I'm in Omaha, and I didn't even bring a Dodger hat on this trip because I knew how hot and humid it was going to be, and I didn't want to sully any of my Dodger hats. So I've just been wearing a bucket hat for shade, and so I don't have a hat to wear. And but yes, this haircut and beard trim are both 3 weeks old, but thank you all for noticing. And I do think the reason I look better today is because worse lighting and a worse camera. The less you can see me, the better I look is generally how it works for me. And Elisheva asked if I dyed my hair platinum blonde. No, Mother Nature dyed my hair platinum silver. That's what you're seeing here. So tomorrow, I think, will be the first time in the history of this podcast, though, that you and I will both be sitting in hotel rooms when we record it. So that'll be a fun one after tomorrow's game. Should be super high quality video, but the content will be good. I know that.
Yeah, we're still going to have great words to say, even if the video isn't quite there. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, last listen of the day, any listen of the day. We appreciate it. Make sure to check us out wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe so you get notified when our episodes are ready or when we're going live. Remember, you can check out Locked On MLB Game Night wherever you get podcasts and on the Locked On MLB YouTube account. Local analysis on a national scale every night. You can find us on, or you can go beyond the podcast, come Locked On Dodgers Insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Get text directly from us and get invited to our Discord server. You can find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at SnideDog. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, text my advice by podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.